Well, the Stanley Cup playoffs started with 16 teams. It is now down to 4 as we do a preview of the conference finals. I am Adel Ahmed. Alongside I have Mr. Thomas Wildman with me. So we've already seen one game so far, Thomas, between the Oilers and the Avs in game number 1. It was a high-scoring affair, 14 goals combined from both teams. Thomas, what did you see most out of game number 1 there?
Well, Adel, the first thing that most people will notice is that it was a high-scoring game. 8-6. You don't really see that, especially in the playoffs. But the Edmonton Oilers seem to love to do that in Game 1 of these series. They did the same thing with the Calgary Flames. Same thing. They chased out Mike Smith in that game, the Colorado Avalanche. And so, you don't really like to see how poor the Oilers' defense was very early on in that game. And so, you'd really like to see them tighten that up for sure. Colorado just seemed to always have the answers, was able to put the puck behind Mike Smith, and so that was kind of a mercy pull. Wasn't always his fault. The goals that ended up going in, lots of them were bad defensive breakdowns. But beyond that, the other big thing that happened was the Colorado goalie had to be chased out, and not due to poor play. Darcy Kemper was out with an upper body injury, and he did not return to play, so Mr. Francois had to come in and play the game, and he let in 3 on 21, which isn't bad for sure, especially against a high-flying Oilers offense, but certainly a danger for the Colorado Avalanche after Game 1.
Or certainly, as right now, both teams have scored the most goals in the league in the playoffs so far, with Edmonton having 58 and Colorado having 51. So just moving forward, specifically going into game number 2, what do you feel like you need to see most out of Edmonton and Colorado? Let's start with Colorado first.
Well, Colorado, they really need to keep doing what they're doing best. They're playing. They need to keep putting the puck past whoever's in net. Either if it's Mike Smith, I'm sure Mike Smith will start game 2, or Mikko Koskinen if a bad Mike Smith start happens again. We're seeing Rantanen, McKinnon, Landeskog, Kadri, all those amazing weapons. Cale Makar, especially as a defenseman. Just all those great weapons coming down and playing great. But then I mentioned already, Francois, he's going to have to probably fill in the shoes for Darcy Kemper. Darcy Kemper is still it's unknown if he's going to start game 2. And with that upper body injury, he could aggravate that again later on in the series, and Francois will have to possibly take up that starting role. So certainly, I'd like to see them play a little bit better with that goaltending and make sure Francois can step into those roles. But the rest of the Colorado Avalanche need to just keep playing as good as they have been, keep putting the pucks on net, keep playing pretty decent defense. We want to see a little bit of a better defensive game than Game 1, though, that's for sure.
Certainly, as Darcy Kemper, not being in this series moving forward could really be a big blow for the Avalanche, as they try to make a quest for a cup here. Let's go over to the other side of this conference finals. Let's head over to the East. The New York Rangers and Tampa Bay Lightning, they're playing Wednesday night, game number 1. What are you hoping to see out of that series specifically? Let's just start with game 1.
Well, Igor Shesterkin, he was an MVP candidate, or still is an MVP candidate. I guess they haven't announced who's the Hart Trophy winner. But then, of course, he's also a Vezina Trophy candidate. He's been playing excellent, .914 save percentage. In the playoffs, he's been amazing. You got to love the point production from Chris Kreider, from Zibanejad, and from Adam Fox especially, as just as dynamic of defenseman as Cale Makar. Though, I would like to see from the Rangers, though, a little bit better goal production from Artemi Panarin. He's been really good at getting some apples throughout this series, but 4 goals for how much he's getting paid, and he's kind of one of the big players on the Rangers. I'd like to see him put a few more past, hopefully, the goaltender on the other side, Andrei Vasilevsky, though that is a very tall order.
Of course, as Vasilevsky stands at 6'3", and he's over 220 pounds. So he's a big body that takes up the net, and he's certainly one of those goalies that's really well in these playoffs, especially in elimination games moving forward. So obviously, Braden Point, still uncertain if he is going to return in the playoffs, as he suffered that lower body injury in round number 1 against Toronto. Is there a player in Tampa that you certainly want to see kind of step up a little bit more? Yeah,
a little bit. I think really Tampa's been very good so far this year. I would like to see a little bit more from Brandon Hagel. Tampa had to play quite a bit to get him, and he just hasn't really been playing that well. He's only got 4 points so far in this year in all of the playoffs. But Tampa's got so much depth. They got Stamkos, they've got Victor Hedman, an excellent defenseman, and of course Nikita Kucherov, who seems to become a completely different animal in the playoffs. He's been excellent in the second round, of course, and so Tampa's looking really good so far, and I'm just very excited to see how this series will go, because we've got 2 titans of goalies, 2 amazing defenders, and some outstanding offenses in this Eastern Conference series.
Certainly, we are running short on time. Last question I want to quickly ask you, Thomas, is if you had one player, name one player from these playoffs so far as your Conn Smythe winner, who would it be?
I'm going to say Connor McDavid. You know, he's been playing like Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, players who we haven't seen in years. That was kind of promoting production. We didn't get to talk a lot about the Oilers, but Connor McDavid, if they can make it there, I think even if the Oilers somehow don't win, he's been making comical video game-like point production, and so Connor McDavid is my choice for the Conn Smythe.
He's been an exciting guy to watch so far in these playoffs, and certainly going to be exciting to see how his team does moving forward and the rest of the teams do here in the Stanley Cup playoffs. As I'm Adel Thomas alongside Thomas Wildman, thank you again so much for joining me. We will catch you guys again soon.